Hello everyone and welcome to the second of my normal trial guides. In this video we'll be covering Dreadsail Reef. The goal of this video is for you to be able to join a trial group and be able to keep up with them without too many problems. We'll be covering each role, chest locations and any add-ons that can potentially help for this tile. Starting off, this trial can be done with one tank, but it's a bit more on the difficult side. So if you're just starting out, you can go with 2 tanks. It's quite normal for solo tanks to struggle a little bit, especially on the second boss and the trash pulls. With that being said, let's get into the trash pulls. The first trash pull consists of a swashbuckler and a keel cutter. Try to stack the swashbuckler on the keel cutter, but it will likely teleport away and be immune to taunts for a bit. DDs will deal with them. Chain stuff onto the keel cutter and don't chase down the swashbuckler. The next add pull consists of a swashbuckler, keel cutter and sea adder. So pretty much identical to the previous pull, except with a sea adder added to it. Stack the adder on the keel cutter, chain stuff in, and remember not to chase down the swashbuckler. The third add pull consists of a swashbuckler, sea adder and serpent caller. Serpent callers are summoners, but you want to ignore their summons, as those will go away when the serpent caller is killed. Also note that the sea adder roams between this pull and the next, so it might not be here. Up ahead will be 2 swashbucklers, just taunt them at the start, and once they teleport away, DDs will deal with them, don't chase them down. The last add pull before the first boss consists of 2 rangers and a sea adder. For the tank, the ranger mechanic isn't important, so you can ignore that. But there is a trick to stacking them quickly. Taunt all 3 and then run to the right wall. This will pull the left ranger onto the right one, stacking them together. At this point, you run back with the sea adder following you, stacking all of them together. At this point we'll be at the first boss. The mechanic of this fight is that the bosses will take significantly less damage unless they are in the dome of the opposite element. To grab these domes, you can aim at the glowing stones on the side from any distance and press interact. The white one gives you the ice dome, and the red/orange one gives you the fire dome. Fire dome goes on top of the ice boss, and the ice dome goes on top of the fire boss. Ideally, the healers and DDs will take care of this, but this is never a given in the random groups, so it's good to know regardless. Additionally, when the domes of 2 different elements collide, they will blow up, dealing some damage, so try to be careful with which domes you're grabbing. The bosses also have an interruptible attack, however they need to be in the correct dome for this to be interrupted. On normal, this attack does a moderate amount of damage, although the damage can mostly be ignored. It does have to be interrupted for the fight to be able to continue. You will be holding the boss in the center of the arena. When the boss is at 80% health, it will be spawning 2 addons. Taunt those, keep them in the dome, and hopefully they'll get killed before the next mechanic happens. If they don't, you'll just hold on to them until they're killed. The next mechanic is something that you, as a tank, don't really interact with too much, but the boss will still teleport around and eventually leave. Once it leaves, the other boss will come down and it repeats itself. So the second boss will also teleport around, but instead of leaving, it will stay. This boss will be the first one to be killed, so keep the dome around, kill this boss, and at some point the first boss will be coming back down. Try to keep an eye on the center so that you can taunt it right away, and just hope that the healers and DDs will grab the appropriate domes for you. If you notice that there's no dome up, you can of course grab it yourself as well. After the first boss, you can go 2 ways. Usually people go left. There you'll find a brewmaster and some animals. Stack everything together. The brewmaster throws potions which will shrink you and make you weaker, so try to avoid them. They have a faint AoE outline on the floor. After this, you'll be brought to the next add pool consisting of a serpent collar and 2 crabs. Stack them together and burn them down. You're then introduced to the single hardest mechanic of the trial, trying to coordinate 3 random people to pull levers. The way this is usually done is to wait until every lever has someone standing near it, and then someone counts down 3, 2, 1, and when people see the 1, they'll pull. These need to be timed somewhat at the same time in order for the door to be opened and allow you to go to the next add pool. This will have to happen after each add pull on both the left and right side. The next pull has a lot of enemies, but only 3 of them are important. Brewmaster, Serpent Tongue, Bear. Stack those 3, the other things will die. The last add pull on the left side is a bit bigger, consisting of an archer, a brewmaster and a serpent tongue, but importantly a bunch of small stuff that gets in the way of taunting the stuff you want. So either jump around to try and get proper targeting, or just use tap targeting and cycle through the targets. Next up is the first mini-boss. There's no mechanics to worry about here, just chase it down as it digs around and try to taunt some of the small turtles as well. Once the boss is killed, go through the exit and make sure someone has turned the wheel. If this wheel is not turned, you cannot enter the Reef Guardian room. The first add-pull on the right side consists of a keel cutter and some harpies. Chain the harpies in, there's not much else to do here. The next add-pull has a serpent tongue and a bunch of harpies. Same thing really, chain the harpies in and these will do the rest. The pull after has a serpent tongue and a brewmaster. Stack them together, chain in the harpies, you get the point by now. The last pull on this side is a little bit bigger, consisting of a brewmaster, serpent tongue, swashbuckler and again a bunch of harpies. The swashbuckler will teleport away and target other players, so don't pay too much attention to it. Just stack the brewmaster, serpent tongue and stack the harpies. The next mini boss is again a fairly simple one. Just chase the boss around and chain in the other harpies next to it for convenience. Try to keep it faced away from the group, as it does have a cleave that will stun players if not blocked. Once done, make sure to interact with the wheel again, and then it's on to the second main boss. As a tank, the idea is fairly simple. The boss creates smaller copies and you just taunt them and keep them in place. The boss also has a conal attack, which places a small AoE on you. So whenever that cone starts to come out, you can move to the side to keep those AoEs away from the center. In the end, this fight is mostly about if you're able to taunt everything as it pops up. They'll generally stay taunted, so you don't have to worry about re-taunting them. Just make sure you don't walk too far back and fall into the center. Then it becomes a bit of a problem. At the end of the fight, you'll likely see that your team has failed to destroy a Reef Heart. This is normal for normal. At which point, the last Reef Guardian will enrage, and you're going to start to have to dodge the heavy attacks instead of merely blocking them. But even then, if you die here, the group can easily finish it off. It will never kill the entire group before they kill it. After that, we're on to the final trash pulls leading up to the final boss. A new add is introduced here, an Overseer. Keep your back to a wall as it kicks you back. The first trash pull here will very likely be the first two trash pulls at the same time, due to a small flaw in the encounter design, so get ready for a bit of a rough time. This pull consists of two brewmasters, an overseer, a swashbuckler, a keel cutter, and of course a bunch of small adds. From these, the only things that you really have to worry about are the brewmaster, keel cutter, and overseer. These should all be stacked together, and everything else you just let go and hope that these deal with it. It's a mess. Don't be surprised if you wipe here after killing some of the adds. You might just do the pull in two goes. It happens. The next pull consists of an overseer, a keel cutter, and an archer. The easiest way to handle this is to just hold the keel cutter and overseer together and take care of the archer later. But if you taunt the archer and run back the way you came from, you'll be able to stack the melees on top of it. The next pull is 3 serpent tongues. Nothing here, just taunt stuff and it dies. Slightly up ahead is also a single roaming swashbuckler, just kill it wherever you find it. The last pull has an overseer, a keel cutter, an archer, a swashbuckler, and a brewmaster. Taunt them all and try to stack the overseer, keel cutter, and brewmaster on the archer. Let the swashbuckler do its own thing. Unfortunately, someone got impatient and pulled before me here, so it didn't get to quite show what I wanted, but it still worked out fairly well. And then we're on to the final boss. She doesn't have many attacks to worry about, it's more in the mechanics. The main attack is her heavy, which is indicated by her crossing her swords and vibrating. Block or dodge this, you can do either. There will be a big ad spawning throughout the fight, the sea behemoth. Taunt it and just hope that DDs kill it. If you don't, you're just gonna be losing a bit more stamina than usual. At multiple points throughout the fight, the boss will spin her swords around. If you're worried about your stamina, don't block it, as each hit will make you lose stamina, which adds up quickly. She will also occasionally summon 4 waves, 3 indicated with AoE markers and a bluish AoE following you. Make sure to block these or you'll be knocked back and likely die. She will also summon tornadoes. If they come from the group to you, dodge through them. If they come from you to the group, stand still. If the tornado does a full loop around and gets close to you, start running away from it, but usually it won't. Once the boss reaches 50% health, the tornadoes disappear. From there on out, you just stand still, block, and wait for the DDs to kill the boss. Most normal trials are commonly done with 1 healer, although this is among the harder ones, so it's not weird to see 2 healers. But generally, any deaths caused by not having a second healer are usually not your fault, but the DDs. I will not be covering all of the trash pulls in this section, however, pay attention to any pull that involves a keel cutter, as they can deal a lot of damage to the entire group very quickly. You can refer to the tank section of this video for more info. The first boss is quite complicated, and fortunately, as complicated as it's gonna get. The main mechanic of this fight is that the bosses will take significantly less damage unless they are in the dome of the opposite element. To grab these domes, you can aim at the glowing stones on the side from any distance and press interact. The white ones give you the ice dome, and the red/orange one gives you the fire dome. Fire dome goes on top of the ice boss, and the ice dome goes on top of the fire boss. Ideally, the healers and DDs will take care of this, and keep in mind that you can steal the domes from others, but if the two domes of opposing elements touch, they will blow up. The bosses also have an interruptible attack, however, they need to be in the correct dome for this to be interrupted. On normal, this attack does a moderate amount of damage, although the damage can mostly be ignored. It does have to be interrupted for the fight to be able to continue. At a certain point, the bosses will teleport around. If you happen to be holding the dome, chase them around and interrupt them. Once the first boss disappears, drop your dome by interacting with the crystal again, and repeat the same thing for the second boss, but with the opposing dome. Once the interrupts on the second boss are done, it will not disappear. Hold the dome until it's dead, and then drop it and grab the other dome, as the first boss will have come back. Then just wait until that one's dead, and then you're done. After the first boss, you can go either left or right. Most groups will go left. In there will just be a bunch of add-boss with a mini-boss at the end. This is mirrored onto the right side. These mini-bosses don't have any mechanics that you need to worry about, you just keep your heals up and you'll be fine. You're then introduced to the single hardest mechanic of the trial, trying to coordinate 3 random people to pull levers. The way this is usually done is to wait until every lever has someone standing near it, and then someone counts down 3, 2, 1, and when people see the 1, they'll pull. These need to be timed somewhat at the same time in order for the door to be opened and allow you to go to the next add pull. This will have to happen after each add pull on both the left and right side. On the next main boss, the Reef Guardian, there's again nothing specific for you to do, although generally the group will need more healing here. Try to give the tank an occasional Undaunted Orb so they get the synergy, keep 1 or 2 heals on them as well. Besides that, there's not much you can do. For the last boss, it's more of the same as in the Reef Guardian. However, there's one small heal check when she spins her swords around, so make sure you really have your heals up when that happens. And don't forget to give the occasional Undaunted Orb to your tank. Once Ice Tornadoes spawn, stand still and let them go through you. If they loop back around, it's time to start running until they disappear. For DDs, I will once again not be covering the trash pulls. For that, you can look at the tank section of this video. The main adds to focus will be Kill Cutters and Brewmasters, in that order. If a Kill Cutter targets you with a cone, try to stand still or you'll set the group on fire. Brewmasters throw potions that will shrink you if you touch them, making you weaker, so try to avoid these. They have a somewhat faint AoE outline on the floor, but it can be quite hard to see. As for the first boss, this will be the only one where you really have any responsibilities. The main mechanic of this fight is that the bosses will take significantly less damage unless they are in the dome of the opposite element. To grab these domes, you can aim at the glowing stones on the side of the room from any distance and press interact. The white one gives you the ice dome, and the red/orange one gives you the fire dome. Fire dome goes on top of the ice boss, and ice dome goes on top of the fire boss. Ideally, the healers and DDs will take care of this. You can steal the domes from others by interacting with the stone, but if the 2 domes of opposing elements touch, they will blow up and deal some amount of damage. The bosses also have an interruptible attack, however, they need to be in the correct dome for this to be interrupted. On normal, this attack does a moderate amount of damage, although the damage can mostly be ignored. It does have to be interrupted for the fight to be able to continue. There are also 2 required side bosses in this trial, one on both sides, but these don't really have any mechanics going on, so just chase them around and kill them. You're then introduced to the single hardest mechanic of the trial, trying to coordinate 3 random people to pull levers. The way this is usually done is to wait until every lever has someone standing near it, and then someone counts down 3, 2, 1, and when people see the 1, they'll pull. These need to be timed somewhat at the same time in order for the door to be opened and allow you to go to the next add pull. This will happen This will have to happen after each add pull on both the left and right side. As for the second boss, there really isn't anything to explain for the DDs. The tank holds the boss and you kill the boss. A few things can get loose, so be prepared to dodge if something is looking at you threateningly. As for the last boss, it really is just more of the same. Though there is one mechanic to pay attention to. Once ice tornadoes spawn, stand still and let them go through you. If they loop back around, it's time to start running until they disappear. Once the first set disappears, there's nothing to do besides just killing the boss. There will be a big add that the tank will hold. Try to place your AoEs on that. The boss's hitbox is huge, so by placing the AoEs on the add, you will also hit the boss. Throughout the side paths of the Wraith, there will be piles of dirt. Digging these up may or may not reveal a runestone. If you destroy 5 runestones in total, you can interact with the NPC right before Reef Guardian to get pretty significant buffs for the rest of the trial. I'll let the video play out for all positions. So because there's so many chests in this trial spread across such a large area, I will show some screenshots from a guide made by Nilandia. The guide is a Google Doc that goes in depth about a lot of the trials mechanics, but also includes rune locations, chest locations and heavy sacks. I've linked it in the description below if you'd like to take a look at it for yourself. The first and arguably most important add-on is Code's Combat Alerts. It's an add-on that works everywhere in the game, even outside of trials, and alerts you of any important mechanics targeting you. If you'd like to take this a step further and see every tank targeting you, you can also use Crutch Alerts, though this gets overwhelming quite quickly. There's also Raid Notifier, which generally has notifications for the majority of mechanics in most trials, although this one has less info than usual for Dreadsail. If you want an add-on for Dreadsail to fill Raid Notifier's place, your best bet is Q-Cell's Dreadsail Reef Helper. This add-on has a lot of specific information on each specific boss in this trial. And that's all I have for normal Dreadsail. I do want to point out that there's a lot more mechanics going on than I explained, but they really just don't matter on normal, while they'd be a wipe on veteran. The difficulty of normal Dreadsail comes more in the form of combat, things dealing relatively high damage and having pretty high amounts of health for normal trials. Future videos will also hopefully have less time between them, as I've just been quite busy these past few weeks, but I'm quite happy with the reception of the first one, so I'll definitely be continuing these.